Okay, everybody, welcome. We are here for Post Story Howls, a discussion of the Wolfkin with myself, Flickerclad Lacuna, Photo Chick, Rhodey, and Sarah P. That's me. Thank you guys all for being here. We are going to jump right into the call and have some fun stuff starting.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I see Andy's ready.
Yep.
Yay. Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah P. That's me. I am not Flickerclad, nor am I Armored Andy, but I am kind of hosting this little
What about on the
roundtable
weekends?
discussion. We don't talk about those, Andy. You promise. I hope you all are having a good time. We're going to go around and talk a little bit about the story that took place over the last, was it 9 weeks that we did this? Or 9 or 8 or 9, something like that? Just a little short story on Wild that had a lot of nuance and depth, and we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to ask any questions that they might have had or kind of explore any story points or anything, because there was a lot to wrap up, and we loved it so much that we can't stop talking about it. So here we are. First thing I want to do is have everybody who's here go around and introduce themselves. Please introduce not only yourself, also the name of the character you played. I'd like to know how long you've been RPing on WildRP and on WildRP. So RPing as well as on WildRP and where you can be found. I'll go last. So Andy, would you like to start?
Certainly. Hi, guys. I'm Armored Andy. I played Cloud, who's also previously known as Simon Stoughton. I've been role playing since AOL chat rooms. That's when it started, and then playing some Star Wars tabletop with my brother and his friend. And let's see, I've been on Wild since May of last year, so a year and a few months. And what was the rest? Oh, you can find me right here at twitch.tv/armoredandy. I sometimes bother Flickr too and go over to theirs and pop up in their stream. So go to their stream too.
That's perfect. I was going to ask for Flickr next.
And Sarah.
Hey everybody,
Flickr, how are you?
I'm Flickerclad. I played the role of Fang, also known as Saskia Wolf. I don't think she ever used her last name, but that was the full name. I think I've been role playing since I want to say like around 15, and I think I got started on like play by post, so I was very like narrative focused. So it's kind of more like shared fiction in that regard. But I then graduated into playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was 21. So I've been I guess role playing in like a more collaborative live environment for about 10 years because I'm 31 now. I've been on Wild Roleplay for 13 months as of I think like a week and a half ago. And I'm very happy to be here with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. Who do we have next? Lacuna.
Oh boy. I'm Lacuna. I played Ash, formerly known as Jack James. I got started role playing in about 2014 in D&D and things like that and GMing. I have been role playing on Wild since the day the server opened, so I think that was June of 2020 that I've been on the server.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, I've been on the server since day one. I was like whitelisted like 6 months before the server even went live. I'm an old fart when it comes to Wild. Was there anything else? Oh, where I can be found around. I don't stream. I'm not on Twitter anymore. Yeah, I'm just around. You can hear me in
So
server
we can't find
sometimes. You can't find me. Not anymore. I occasionally, very rarely, like once a year stream. So
Perfect. Photo. Who are you?
All right, I am Photo Chick, and I played Moon, who was also known as Lillian Turner. Let's see, what else are we supposed to do? I've already forgot.
How long you been role playing, and
role-playing.
how long you been on Wild?
I'm just a baby role player. I've only been role playing for about 3 years. Been on Wild for about 9 months. And as far as places you can find me, I don't really stream that much. I don't stream roleplay because I guess I'm too intimidated to do that. But I do sometimes stream other games, but not really roleplay. Photo Chick. My name's Photo Chick all the way around, so you can find me on Twitter, but I don't really post there either. So yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Rody.
My name's Rody. I've been role-playing since about 2010, all from Space Station 13. Everything I ever done was text-based up until WILD. I've been in WILD since, I want to say, October of last year. Did I say who I played?
Nope.
Oh, I played Old Wolf, as dubbed by the Wolfkin. Other than that, his name is first name Wolf, last name Man. I didn't really expect him to have a name. If you ever pull up a log on him from Law, it's gonna be Wolf Man, because I couldn't think of anything for him.
And where can we find you?
On SoundCloud, under the name Deep Sea Astronomy.
Oh, yeah. So you play awesome music.
I got one. What you see on there is absolutely completely different from what I play on the server. I make little funk beats. I like what I do.
Love it. And I am Sarah P. That's me. I played Dusk, otherwise known as Brianna McClellan. I've been role playing. Let's see, I got my start doing play-by-post on a Lord of the Rings fan fiction forum. That was, and I was 13 years old, and did mostly text-based stuff. And I got involved in tabletop after that, like in my early 20s, and then I started doing video game role play 7 years ago or so, back in ARC. And how old am I? 33. Yeah, so quite a number of years. I've been on WILD since September of last year, so coming up on a year. I'm really enjoying it. And you can find me on twitch.tv/therapy that's me, or Twitter @therapy that's me. It's all the same everywhere. Coolio. So now that you all know who we are and who we played, we wanted to share with you guys a couple of things, just some backstory stuff and a summary if anybody missed any key points of what happened in the story and they want to know, and then we'll kind of do some discussion of our characters and then an ask anything kind of section. So this concept, many of you might not know, was Andy's brainchild. So Andy, would you mind introducing like how you came up with this concept to us and like what your intention for the story was, stuff like that? Can you tell us a little bit about this baby of yours?
Sure. This was there was a storyline that Flicker and I both got involved in when I was maybe a month or two in the server, and Flick, you must have been just like days old. But there was a saga called the Bloodletter Saga, where they were these two people, a mother and son, who used to, they would kidnap people, force them to drain a little bit of their blood, and a lot of people thought it was vampires or it was supernatural based, which it was far from it. There are actual diseases where people would need like sufficient amounts of iron to survive, you know, like it's like severe anemia or something. And that was the route they went. They just never revealed it because suddenly it takes all the flair out of it. But they did it it was about a 2-month, 2.5, maybe 3-month storyline. And it was just fun. Nobody knew about them. Everybody spoke of them like they were, you know, mysterious creatures out there, and it stuck with me for the longest time. And it's a real tribute to Yeka and Jackal for actually making those two characters and being so good at what they did. And it stuck with me for the longest time. I said, you know, I really want, and I call those groups of people or those storyline, I call them lore groups. I'm like, I want to make a lore group, and just ones that are filled with mystery, and then you can slowly let out these little bits of their backstory and their history that just gets people more and more interested and want to either help or kill them, that kind of thing. That's where it first came from. I said, I really, really want to make a group like that. And so I started, anything out of Tall Trees I always heard were just cannibal people. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to do cannibal people. But where would be the best, you know, what would be neat, fresh, interesting? And I said, how about kids raised by wolves? Because there have been stories, like I did my research where there have been kids in like Peru that were raised by goats for 3 years, you know? Kids found in the wild that were rescued by goats, and these goats like looked after them, and these kids turned into like feral children. And so it started with that. The research went deeper into like wolf hierarchy to see what, and a lot of it was backtracking and seeing how we could set it up. The whole idea of frontierism during this time in the West, of all these families, tons of wagons all going west to start new lives, to seek their fortunes and their riches, that kind of thing. A whole new start at life. Where could it go terribly wrong, and potentially these how would these children survive? And it's like, so we need enough adults to die so the wolves get their fill that day, and then the kids are for some reason accepted by this father wolf, this alpha wolf of this big pack. And it just kind of went from that. Like, I had it in the back of my head for a really long time, and I said, you know what, while I had 3 active characters on the server, I'm like, you know what, let's just go, let's just make a 4th one and let's go. So that was where it originated from, and that's how it kind of got started.
Awesome. So do you feel like, so you wanted to create this lore group, and then you said something to me at first, I think, and then it just kind of ballooned really fast. Like, I was like, oh, this is a cool concept, we'll do this in like a month or 2, and within a week we were all playing
I know
characters on the server. I feel like
sorry.
You mentioned, no, it's okay, it was great. You mentioned something specific to me at that time about how you were really curious, like what kinds of philosophical debates this would bring up for law specifically, and you wanted to present that to law as a possibility. Do you feel like it achieved its goal, or how did it do that, or did it do that? Do you feel like it accomplished what you were after?
I think looking at the bigger picture, I mean, originally what I wanted was like, there's that burnt out little like shack, the 2 shacks between Blackwater and Strawberry, where it's like, I want 2 of us hiding there, so when people ride by, we run out, ransack them, take their shit, and leave. Like it was basic.
Oh yeah,
it was super basic.
We were supposed to rob people. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we were. Instead, well, the funny part is that once Fang got out there and turned out to be this social butterfly and got free shit from everyone, including guns, it was amazing. And I'm like, oh, this is taking a turn where I never thought people would sympathize with us at all. They would be like, these are just some crazy ass kids in the woods that think they run with wolves. They would think we had some group hallucination or something. And they would just want to hurt us or hand us over to law. I think it raised enough questions with law. I'm really excited that it raised so much in the Rangers. I really enjoyed that aspect. The Rangers are the ones that are out there in the deep woods, trying to help anyone, even if there are people that have survived there for 10 some odd years. So
awesome. I think we're gonna get more into the impact that it had in a later segment. But for now, just to catch everybody up, I'm going to give a brief summary, as brief as I could make it, of the storyline and what happened. And we're talking about, I mean, I did pretty good for 9 weeks of roleplay, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
So, just so everybody knows, everybody's on the same page. So in case there is any key points anybody missed, I typed this up. I'm going to try to only kind of read it and not go into too much detail extraneously from what I have written here. So bear with me, because this is going to be awkward a little bit, maybe. So like we said before, the concept was that a group of feral children who had been raised by wolves, like Andy said, for the last 10 years made their way into tall trees with the mission of expanding Father Wolf's territory. So Father Wolf was an actual wolf. For anybody who was wondering if he was a wolf or a man or who he was an actual large wolf. Along the way, they met a few folks who they started out by referring to as outsiders, and that included rangers, there was a hunter early on, Klaus early on, a few different folks who they encountered, mostly Fang encountered, who were our outsiders. They were not part of the pack. The pack began to conflict over the nature of their existence, because these were the first civilized humans they had really encountered since being taken 10 years ago. So on the one side, we had Ash and Dusk, who kind of fought for Father Wolf's purpose, and they were totally happy and comfortable with destroying outsiders for expansion of the territory. They were like, this is our mission. We've been told we were supposed to do this, so we need to like kill these people. And on the other hand, Fang and Moon were a little bit softer towards the outsiders and more open-minded when it came to learning about the tools and their way of life and all the humans. Like, they were more curious about them. So Cloud, though, was like in the middle. He was the one they all looked to for leadership, but he had kind of an underlying inner conflict, which maybe he'll tell you about later, that was sustained by the ritual of the blood moon, which I'll get to, which kind of caused him to struggle with making decisions for this pack of children, which was it was an unsettling story point at first, but really became like key, and it was awesome in the end. Our last wolf, Outsider Wolf, which is what we called him at first, became Old Wolf, who's played by Rhodey. He was an older feral man who encountered the wolves, and he was accepted by them fairly quickly, actually. He made it very clear that he was like them, and he had some advice to offer, but he tried to influence the pack as well in the direction of embracing society. And Dusk and Ash opposed his views. So that happened in a couple of conversations there. So that's the whole pack. During all of this, the pack is kind of struggling. Like, this is like the beginning of the story. We were struggling because we hadn't heard from Father Wolf in a while, and we couldn't find him. So some arguments started to occur between us because of not knowing exactly what Father Wolf's plan was, and sort of arguing over what does he want and how do we act. So the blood moon was something we started kind of foreshadowing early on in the story, and then the day of that was drawing near. The blood moon was a ritual that was that basically Father Wolf would make the kids fight each other during a particular day of the year. So, and then one kid would have to kill another kid, Hunger Games style. So we've come from a lot of bloodshed. All these kids, they're the last ones left, the 5 last ones left from 16, I think, total.
10 and 6.
Yes, 10 and 6, right. We've lost a lot of siblings. Like, they were all our brothers and sisters, really, because we were the children of this caravan that was going. We've lost them along the way. So the blood moon was drawing near and tensions were rising. So Ash and Fang were butting heads a lot over Fang's affinity for outsiders, and Ash became increasingly erratic. So he started eating raw meat, hunting outsiders who'd come to the trees, like really carrying out what he believed was Father Wolf's desire. He even eventually succeeded at killing Art, which was one of the rangers who he had kind of quarreled with before. And this increases tensions between the rangers and the pack even more, and then as well as rangers and law. And I won't go into a lot of that, all that storyline. That's for them to talk about, but it was a lot. And so as tensions rose, Moon was taken to Wapiti at this time for protection, because Ash was they were worried that he was going to kill her. She's the youngest and has never fought in the blood moon, so she was one that we wanted to protect. Like, she was the kind of the precious one that nobody wanted to see hurt. Dusk needed surgery for a broken arm, and that kind of occurred earlier in the story as well, and accepted help from Hummingbird while under the influence of morphine. So the fact that she accepted this help made her a prime candidate for the blood moon. And she begs Ash to fight her. So she believes in Ash's views, and they both believe in the blood moon. And she asked him to fight her on the blood moon day for reasons I'll get into later. And so the day the blood moon is set, but before it occurs, Ash found Hummingbird. And Hummingbird is the one who had helped Dusk, so outsider help. And he attacked her as an outsider, and then Fang killed Ash, leaving no one to fight on the blood moon with Dusk. So then blood moon day arrives, and that's the day Dusk learns that Ash is dead and can't fight her on that day. So Dusk insists that Fang fight in Ash's place, and she and Fang spoke beforehand, and Dusk says that while she would have been happy to kill Ash in order to further to make sure the pack survives, because she also was starting to believe that Ash was wrong. Not necessarily about Father Wolf's plan, but certainly about all the killing he was doing. She believed that Fang must kill her because Fang is more important for the pack's survival. So Fang and Dusk then approach the battlefield as friends, and they stand there opposing each other for a while, and Cloud says, I'm going to go fetch Father Wolf. So he goes to fetch Father Wolf to observe the ritual, and he doesn't return. So then the pack went out and searched for him, and they found him among a pile of wolf bodies, and Father Wolf with him, dead. So Cloud has fought Father Wolf and his pack and killed Father Wolf. Cloud is injured. It's I believe it was pretty clear by the end that his injuries were not necessarily fatal. Dusk immediately made to slaughter Cloud for his betrayal of Father Wolf, and Moon stood over him. But Moon was pulled off by the others, and Dusk slit Cloud's throat. She murdered him. So the pack is then briefly splintered, and we go off in different directions, and it's kind of unclear where it was going after that. During this time, Law knows about Hummingbird and Ash attacking Hummingbird. They know about, oh, they're all crying. Like, oh, they're crying. And then they know about Fang killing Ash. And now they find the body of Cloud washed down the river. And Fang spreads a lie that she killed both Ash and Cloud. And so Law now believe that Fang is responsible for murdering 2 people. So Fang is very wanted by Law. And this is kind of like where we ramp up to, I feel like this is starting the climax of the story, was this whole part where Cloud killed Father Wolf and then Dusk killed Cloud. So the 3 girls are the only ones who are left, and they have to decide what they're going to do. So they decide to try to go to Wapiti for help. And before they make off for this journey, Fang and Dusk talk, and Dusk says she still thinks Fang has to take care of Moon because Moon's not going to accept her because she killed Cloud. Moon was very upset about that. So Dusk says she'll pretend to be Fang, and if the law comes, she will let them take her in Fang's place so that the others can have time to get away. So they go into Blackwater, they trade clothes, and they like switch places. And in Strawberry, Law did catch up with the girls, and Fang and Moon ran, and Dusk stayed behind. So Dusk argued with Law for a long time and only finally came to understand that the crossing, she was talking to Deputy Hurst for a long while. The crossing is a territory, and the law is the pack that runs it. So in the end, she understood why they felt the need to punish the wolves, because the wolves were trying to get away because they knew they were going to try to put him in a cage. Her ruse as pretending to be Fang works, except for at one point she took Fang's mask off to give to Hummingbird, and is recognized as not Fang by Deputy Claymore, because Claymore had met Fang without her mask before. So then Dusk says, after being found out, that Fang committed the murders and that Dusk took Fang's place just to give them time to escape. And so Dusk doesn't end up being charged with murder at all. Doesn't go to Sisika like we were expecting. Instead, she's given aiding and abetting and something else. I'm not sure exactly what. But because she's not in jail very long, she believes she has a chance to catch up with the others at Wapiti before they leave the crossing forever. So, the other that was quite a moment, I have to say. I should talk about it later, but when I said we were on the wagon going to Sisika and they thought that she'd still committed the murder for Cloud, and then I just decided to try it. I was like, no, I didn't kill Cloud. Fang killed Cloud. She killed both of them, and the wagon just stopped. Is there somewhere you can see that? I do have it recorded. I didn't make the video today, but yes. They just stopped the wagon in the middle of the road and nobody says anything for a good 10 seconds or more. It's absolutely hilarious because that was
beautiful.
a long scene already. It was awesome.
It's hilarious.
So after that, Wapiti, so the other girls, Fang and Moon, have made it up to Wapiti. And Wapiti does not agree to harbor them. The White Eagle, or Hyro, as some of us know, tells them of a place nearby they can camp. So they wait there. And then they go back to Wapiti to meet Hummingbird, who says they will help. Dusk made it to Wapiti as well. Hummingbird and Kiono ferried the girls to Wallace Station, providing them supplies and a carriage so they can travel secretly. At Wallace, it was Wallace, right? Is that the name of that one?
Yeah, it was Wallace.
Yes, Wallace Station.
At Wallace, they secure horses to get to the far north. And along the way, they managed to run into Old Wolf again because his domain is the snow. And he escorted them to the border. The girls decide that they are no longer wolves, but girls instead, forming a new pack and committing to living as humans and journey off into the snow, leaving the crossing in peace. Da-da-da-da-da! Story wrapped.
Happy,
Awesome.
happy.
Happy
Oh,
redemptive
man.
ending. I do like, even with tragedy, I love redemptive endings.
We got the
So
good ending.
what I would like all of us to do now is, now that we've heard the summary, if you all wouldn't mind sharing with us, how did you come up with your characters, and what role do you feel they ended up filling And then I have a subsequent question after that, which is what was the character's primary goal or motivation, and did they accomplish it? And who do I want? Where is the picture? Can I have Flicker? Would you mind explaining Dear Fang, to us?
Yeah, so my design for Fang to start with was I wanted to create like a wolf mane. So like aesthetically, visually, I wanted Fang to have like a wolf mane, but I couldn't find any headdress that worked. But I ended up really falling in love with the skull masks. So I didn't really have a character name just yet. I was gonna find one visually based off whatever I came up with. And the thing that looked the best to me was the white bone mask and the flowing white hair. That's where I ended up landing. There was something about that screamed wolf child to me. I guess the mullet does seem inherently like an uncivilized haircut, and that's why it worked.
Hmm.
And I went for like that kind of like I was going for like white wolf. That was also the thing in the back of my head too. So I hadn't decided for a while if it was like actually her hair, or if it was like wolf fur that that was like part of her mask. But ended up deciding it was her hair. She's just got white hair. I don't know why. In terms of like who she was, I was very obsessed with playing. To start with, I wanted my character to be at the bottom of the totem pole, basically. I wanted her to be the weakest of the pack. Because I typically excel roleplay and acting wise as playing an underdog, whether that's like physically or emotionally, whatever it may be. So I wanted her to be like an ideas wolf that that was very concerned with the survival of the pack, but functionally was not good at fighting for it.
Hmm.
So that was just kind of like the internal dichotomy that I was going for. Someone who's very concerned about everyone's well-being, but like can't do much herself to actually protect them. So inherently I was like, so she's gonna be the person who is like seduced by outsider tools. So the idea of a gun is like, I don't need to be strong if I have a fire stick. Like I just have to be smart. Like it was her realizing that outsiders were like a different kind of strong, and that she could like adapt that strength and use it to help the pack. While of course out of character, me knowing like that would be rejected by the pack, and that would be the tension. So like the inherent tension is like she just wanted to be strong, but the only way she could do so was to be alienated by her own people. Um, that was sort of like the through line of it. But I pictured her being much more conniving and cunning to start with. And I think she's clever and cunning, and she definitely like kept those traits, but she lost all that conniving energy like after just my first play session with her. Like the her the and it was from dealing with outsiders. That was the thing, was like I was expecting some measure of resistance from the people that I met in the woods. Like I was expecting some measure of like, oh, I don't want to do that, and then her having to like persuade them into giving her what she wanted. Um, and generally through like bluffs. Like she was just gonna regularly rob people by the promise that there was like a whole bunch of other people like her around that they couldn't see. But instead, people just regularly like just gave her things. So the character became very diplomatic, I would say. She became sort of like the pack's diplomat, much to the chagrin of some of the other wolves.
Absolutely.
And I always wanted to play the problem child, I guess. Like that was just very much the through line that made the most sense to me, because external conflict is great with groups, but internal conflict is what breeds the story and like allows everyone to. It gives you something to push against, even if nobody outside the pack is playing ball. So it gave us, even if we never found another group to conflict with, or if like the law never came or whatever, it would give us some internal fuel, and I think it worked out pretty well in that regard.
It worked out beautifully. I'm actually going to piggyback off of that and talk about Dusk, because I'm starting to put some things together here. Like, Dusk was also a study in strength and weakness. And I think maybe if we pick apart each of these characters, we'd find they were all studies of strength versus weakness and what that looks like. That's just an idea that I'm having listening to you talk. Because Dusk, we were flying by the seat of our pants when we started this. Like I said, I thought we'd have like a month before we started. Not true. We had like a week or two. So I didn't really know what I was going to do with Dusk at all. I had an idea because we talked a little bit about like what class you would be at the start, and I had an idea that she would be like a fighter or barbarian type, like super strong, not super charismatic, not super like smart type of wolf, but one who relied on pure strength to get through. Then, because I needed to disguise why I was so bad at shooting a bow in game, I decided the first day that I played, without really thinking about it, that Dusk had an injury in her left arm. So, because I wanted her to be strong, but I didn't have a good reason why she wasn't good at these specific things. So her arm had been broken during an incident like sometime before and had healed wrong. So I can't say that I necessarily I didn't go into it knowing I was going to do that. But what that caused was she ended up becoming another wolf that the others had to sort of like take care of, and could also conflict over how, like, what was the best way to take care of this broken arm. Dusk's goal herself was to demonstrate that she was a strong wolf. So Dusk, strong wolf. Dusk not afraid. Dusk can kill 5 wolves in a pack at once by throwing them off of cliffs. Like, that's the kind of
Yes.
character that
I was going to
Dusk
bring
is.
that up.
Yeah. So
Even with one arm.
even with one arm, her arm was ruined that day, and she still fought a 5 wolf pack with her bare hands. And it was an epic moment. I can't remember if that was streamed, but it was pretty cool. I felt good as a player just doing that. The primary motivation though after Hummingbird, because they get morphine. Cloud and Dusk got morphine. Then Dusk takes the morphine and then agrees to have her arm worked on by Hummingbird. Hummingbird puts metal in Dusk's arm and fixes it. This ruins Dusk because now when she wakes up, she discovers that she is outsider. Like, so she believes that she has this outsider help inside her body, which makes her unfit. So the motivation became, or the goal, I guess, was that I have to prove myself worthy, like, or I will live with shame forever. And that was like the continuous fight from Dusk afterwards was Ash, please fight me, or Fang, please fight me, or Law, please kill me, because I need to atone for the sin that's in my arm, basically. What ended up happening in the end, which I didn't go into in the summary, was that she had tried to chew her own arm off by the end, because she did never get to fight Ash, she didn't get to fight Fang, and this thing is still in her arm, and how am I supposed to live with this? So she is like gnawed at her arm to try to get it off. When she was arguing with Law, she was starting to get really antsy because she knew they were going to take her to Sisika, to the island of the cages, and she didn't want to go. Hurst said, I can't give you death, I can't execute you, you have to go. And so she was like gonna fight her, basically. Hummingbird was there and yelled out to Dusk, don't do this, basically. And that gave Dusk real pause, and she said, please take my arm, like, take this out of my arm, I am an outsider. And that was the thing that calmed her down. Like, she wasn't gunning to fight anymore, wasn't gunning for execution anymore. Hummingbird went and took her and surgically removed her arm, like amputated her arm, so that she didn't have to live with this outsider help inside of her anymore. So I would say that, yeah, even though her motivation or goal was to die, essentially, really her goal was to atone for her sin. So she did accomplish it in the end, I would say. Does anybody who is listening, like, not listening, not chat, but any of you want to go next after hearing these two? Who wants to go?
I'll go.
Go.
Because I feel like Ash is the counter opposite of Fang and had a really good, like, interesting relationship with Dusk. So, as far as like how I came up with Ash as a character, I didn't really have any idea of what I was doing going into it. I remember we had like a couple before, like everybody met up for the first time. There were a couple of us that had hopped in and kind of ran around together. And there was a moment, and I have a screenshot of it, of Fang, Dusk, and Ash sitting around a fire with their masks off, because obviously Fang had the bone mask, and Ash wore the bandana that completely covered his face. I remember kind of seeing all these characters like taking off their masks, and I was like, Ash, it kind of inherently, Ash doesn't like that. And so I put the bandana up, and I never took it off unless he was drinking water, just because logically that's, you're not going to drink water through a bandana. So, and he would always turn his head. And for me, that became, he believes he is a wolf through and through to a fault. And so I was always doing slash me's of turns his head, or he would always like put his back to anyone he was drinking water with. Because he would actually I would actually go and toggle the bandana down, and then he would always keep it up. And it was, to get him to look as much like a wolf as possible. You couldn't see any skin unless you were looking like maybe in first person to look underneath the headdress, the wolf headdress, and his bandana to see his eyes. And that kind of solidified him as the antagonist of the group, which was really interesting for me to try to role play out. And his primary motivation and goal was to, in the end, be that antagonist. I kind of always kept saying, if you've ever seen the newer Planet of the Apes movies, he's kind of like Koba, if you know who that character is, who is inherently like following what he has learned and been told to a fault, essentially. And he just wanted to do whatever Father Wolf said, which I have interesting thoughts about what Father Wolf says and everything that we might be able to talk about later. But yeah, he essentially became, I feel like, kind of the embodiment of physical strength for the pack, because everybody kind of saw him as the enforcer. And there were moments when, one of my favorite moments is when I think they're talking at Manzanita with some of the Rangers, and Fang is kind of yapping to Ash, essentially, and he goes up and he pulls his knife on her, which is like the first time I think there was any like antagonistic anything happening in the group. And just seeing flickered the slash me of that, she kind of cowers, I was like, kind of really emboldened him, I guess. And so yeah, he essentially became, the unwillingness to change, and kind of the just an interesting, I guess, way for hopefully others to buoy off of, to be that change, because of his failure and lack of being able to do so, because of he believes so much of what he was doing and who he inherently was. And then you had the, Ash always said there was a moment where Ash and Fang were kind of facing down. If he tried to hunt Ash and or Fang and Moon to essentially get them to get rid of their fear and be strong. He wasn't actually intending to hurt them. But there was a scene
Didn't feel that way.
It didn't feel that way. It wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to feel like that's what he wanted, is to feel true fear. There's that scene where he's kind of backing down Fang, and he says, "You have always cowered. You always use your words for weapons. Stop using your words for weapons." And one of my favorite things to say as Ash was, "All bark and no bite," because that he was always wanting to bite, kind of thing. So, yeah.
And
So
he actually caused that change in Fang, like against everything. Like his success as the villain was actually, Ash's success as a villain was actually forcing Fang to change as a person and like shed a big part of her innocence.
Yeah.
That was like the main success he had, was like he actually broke Fang in a way.
Damn. Who's next?
I'll go.
Go, Moon.
All right. So I'm going to be totally honest. I kind of flew by the seat of my pants on this one, because Andy asked me, I think quite early on, if I wanted to be involved, and I asked him if I could think about it, and he was like, "Yeah, sure." So I took a little too long to think on it. So I came in a little late, actually. So I had to, I hurried and made the character, and honestly, I had no idea what I was doing when I was doing this. I was like, I don't even have a thought. I don't have a name. I have nothing. So I made the character really quickly. I jumped in game, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna see how everybody else is talking, see what everybody else is doing. I was like, I really like, I knew I was late at this point, so I really didn't know. At this point, I had honestly had no idea who she was, where she was going. Obviously, I knew, the backstory that everybody had been given, but so when I when I finally got in, I was like, okay, she is super young. Like, she's gonna be young. She's gonna be innocent. She's gonna be, um, you know, um, he was always calling Fang a cub, where in actuality, or a pup, when actuality Moon was the real pup. Um, she had never been through any of those, um, any of the blood moons. She had always been very protected. Um, I literally, I literally, when came into the game, my first scene with nothing but a canteen. That is literally all I had in my pocket. Because Fang asked Moon, "What do you have?" And I was like, "A canteen." I could hear the laughter in her voice. It was hilarious.
That was the
So,
first. Not the first. The first meme. The first meme of the group was Ash is scary. The second meme was was Moon's canteen.
it was. I was like,
Bearing in mind, none of the rest of us had canteens because we said we were only going to drink from rivers. But then
Try
the sweet
hards.
innocent Moon is like, I have just a canteen. It was so perfect. I love
and
it.
and
It's
this
like-
well, in the story, the story with it was like she found it. Like, it wasn't even hers.
Yeah.
She found it and was like, "Oh, this will be good for me to have water." Like, that was the story behind it. It was ridiculous. I was like, "Oh my god."
I'm almost envisioning like a moment where we're all walking through the forest and we find, a wagon and there is an intact canteen. And after all the previous times of hanging with Moon, just walking through the forest and her being like, thirsty, we all immediately hand it to her. And we're like, there you go.
There
That's
you go.
yours.
Right.
We're still going to the river every time.
Yeah. So her like Moon and Fang become very well. She becomes very quickly close with Fang. They become inseparable. Like, wherever Fang is, that is where Moon is going to be. Um, she is very scared of Ash, but she loves him. So it was very weird because Moon loved everybody in the group. Like, very affectionate to all of them. Like, she nuzzled Ash when, even after he was like yelling at Fang one time. Like, she loves all of them and wanted all of them like to love each other. Stepped in front of them when they were fighting. Uh, so she wanted their small group just to be nice to each other. That's all she wanted. And after a while, she realized, obviously, Ash, was batshit crazy, to say the least. But no, but she loved him. Like, she has very like feelings on his death. Like, she loved him, but she also felt like Fang did the right thing. To be honest, like, that's where she was in the end. Um, the whole thing with Cloud, however, I think the thing with Cloud actually changed Moon. She I think she grew up after that. I think she realized that not even her closest people could be safe, and she felt like she just needed to grow up a little bit. The point where, I'm gonna tell you right now, the point where Dusk dropped the knife and was like, I think you said something like, "Do you want to kill me?" or something, and
Yeah, we
honest,
had found you were
mhm,
mourning, and I
right,
walked up because Fang was like, okay, because Dusk had killed Cloud, and Fang was starting to slowly explain, we have to go to Wapiti, and Dusk is like, this is taking too long. I just dropped the knife in front of you, and I said, you want to kill Dusk? Go ahead.
yeah.
And then
And I honestly, I thought for a split second, should I do this? And I for a minute, I don't think, I honestly don't think in the end Moon would have done it, but Moon was very angry with Dust because she loved Cloud, and it was very very hard for her to sit there and watch what happened, and she was mourning very very bad at that point, and she just Cloud is actually the one who changed her mind. She was like, I'm not going to do it because Cloud would not have wanted that. But she still, at that point, was very angry with Dusk. As I don't know, like, as far as her motivation was basically to keep everybody happy and together, and that kind of just flew out the window. With Ash being the way that he was, and then Cloud dying, their little group was then what she thought Moon and Fang. She thought that Dusk was gone after the whole, her pretending to be Fang. She thought it was just the two of them, and she was completely happy with that. No matter what happened, as long as they were together, it wouldn't have mattered. I do remember Fang being like, "Do you miss Dusk?" And I don't. I think she was like, I don't know, because I'm really, really angry with her. But in the end, when Moon saw Dusk, it was really sweet reunion. They actually hugged, and she was actually really excited to see her. So I think in the end, when they were walking and getting ready to leave, I think that that was a beautiful scene, and I think they all were really happy to be leaving together, the three of them, and not just the two of them in the end. So I don't know. I think it was a really good story for me, and it was honestly some of the best RP I have ever had the chance to be involved with, and I have to thank all of you guys for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
We love you. It's so
Yo.
It was all about saving Moon. That's what it was.
I think I
honestly
grew
was.
a lot with this RP. Like I said, I'm an RP baby, and so some parts, honestly, I was so overwhelmed. I was like, I don't even know what the hell to say right now. Like, I'm just gonna sit here and act like Shy Little Moon, and it worked for me most of the time. So, so thank you guys. Thank you for inviting me to this great group.
I can definitely say that I don't know exactly when it crystallized, but at some stage it was like, oh, it's all about like literally everybody else is ancillary, and Moon is like the legacy that like has
save
to
the
survive.
innocent. Yeah,
I don't know
that was
exactly.
the
I don't know
group goal.
exactly when it clarified to be that, but
Me either. It was so strange. I was like, everybody wants me alive. Like, this is so weird. Like, Moon is the one that has to live. So
Old
yeah,
Wolf.
it was good.
Do you want to go next, Rhodey?
Man, I got a lot to unpack. Shit, where do I start? What are all the questions I'm running through again?
So let's see. How did you come up with, well, your character is unique. So the question was, how did you come up with your character and what role did they end up filling? But you're different because you're a pre-existing character.
Yeah, that was the thing is I remember when I was invited in, because I had the guy, I was like, well, shit, I could make another character or just roll with the one that I got now and I've, had up on the shelf for so long. And I realized if I just used the one that I got, that would be a great chance for him to learn and confide with other people like him. Because when I made him, he was just supposed to be some weird ass that made noise on the side of the road until, someone came to chase him back into the swamp. And and I ended up trying to flesh him out a bit more. Like when you said, what class would everybody be? He would have been a druid. He was like this weird spiritual, almost like a shaman kind of thing that could barely speak. And he basically just drugged people into, thinking that they were, seeing visions or granting wishes or some bullshit. And making away with money or bullets or arrows or whatever he wanted out of it. And I think by the time he had come across the Wolfkin, he had pretty much realized, like, shit, I can accept that I am a man, but that's not going to make me leave behind, what I've always been. So he didn't really have any problems adjusting as far as the push between being an outsider or being a wolf. I think I'm wording that right.
Sounds good to me.
If I can butt in really quick about Old Wolf, one of my favorite things, there was one of the first scenes. The scene that like Old Wolf showed up was amazing, because that's when the Rangers were there, and then I think Danny Jackson showed up as a deputy because she followed Old Wolf and just pissed off all of us. We just fucking bolted because we're like, I just remember Cloud saying badge, badge, and like without saying anything else, he just said badge twice, and everybody just ran. But after that, we kind of regrouped and we were talking to Old Wolf, and he was telling Ash, like, you kind of need to embrace this, or it's gonna be your death. So in a way, which was really cool, like Old Wolf kind of foretold Ash's demise, which I absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually nuts as hell, because that happened more than once. Right after that, after they had met and they had that sit down, and another time at Manzanita, where it was like, you know, you can go ahead and, you know, start growing. You don't have to, like, don't do what you need to do to pursue what you always have, but pursue what makes you happy, what makes you comfortable as a person or as a wolf. You don't have to follow the same strict guidelines, but if you don't adjust, you're gonna, it's not gonna be good. And I think that really could slide into his role in the Wolfkin, was almost like a harbinger, you know, like the group of kids going up to this fucking haunted house, and this old man in a flat cap comes out, and he's like, just, don't fucking go in there, man.
The narrative of Old Wolf, which also kind of mirrored White Eagle in a way, which was just like this idea of I've seen this path traveled before, and it always ends in death and bloodshed. There was this kind of and the sense from Old Wolf that's like, whether you thrive or you all die here, I will carry your story for you, because I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it for others before. Like, there was just this very kind of like, I'll try and make sure at least a part of you lives on. Was
think-
very much what I took away from Old Wolf.
Oh, yeah,
Shaman
loved
is a
that.
very apt descriptor, I think, because he was like the one who had gone before, the one who had walked the path before, and then escorted even the girls like onto the next path. Like, he remained behind, but sent them on their way too, like guiding us from one life to the next.
And,
Yeah,
the,
he's
and the
super cool.
horse ditched me. And the horse ditched me.
That
I thought it
horse was crazy.
I went back and watched the VOD because I remember I went into the Discord. I was like, just make sure you're
Yeah.
careful on that horse, because if you try to go past the ranch, you're either gonna get bucked off or kicked or whatever. Just be careful. And I went back and watched the VOD. And watched it just stick. It didn't move an inch.
It didn't
was-
move at all.
It was beautiful. I loved watching that.
Couldn't have planned it better.
Yeah, no, it was like the end of a damn movie. It was perfect.
Those last lines though.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. The
Andy-
flicker started.
Andy, rescue us. Tell us about Cloud before we go to
Okay, yes, before the tissues come out.
Mhm.
I looked at Cloud as a study of pressure and time, where we all watched, you know, our friends and our family die once a year, if not more, based on other either animal attacks or falling off cliffs or whatever. And the way that I structured his journals, which was actually a nice test where I got to slowly watch like the degradation of speech, which I tried to implement as I wrote out all of his journals. He tried different ways to get kids out in the past, like smuggle them out or get them to the edge of the woods. And this final push by Father Wolf, like when we got to the edge of tall trees, that's where he wanted his kingdom to go, you know, to grow to. That felt like this was the chance. I could finally get the rest out after losing his own brother, after killing Ash's brother, so that he could survive to try to keep looking after as many people as possible. But yeah, you just keep you watch this guy that's almost defeated, and to the point where it almost felt like he was a little bit of a politician, where like he would flip flop at the beginning. Like me personally, I was flip flopping at the beginning because I was like, I have no friggin' clue where we're going with this. What have I made? That's the thing. It was a very Frankenstein moment. I was like, what have I done? But finally, it was about how can I try to get as many out with the end here. And when the fight was going to happen between Fang and Dusk, it was like, oh man, what can I do to stop this? And we all thought, oh, we just have to figure out something together, where Cloud finally said, no, I got to go right to the source. And he decided to go after Father Wolf and and end it that way. Which he had gotten attacked by a bear the last time we were
Oh,
all
yeah.
together, and
He was
I didn't.
weakened.
Yep, Hummingbird. I think Hummingbird. We had seen them, but it was never brought up. So he, prior to fighting Father Wolf, he had this huge like bear gash across his stomach, like and a bunch of bandages all wrapped up, keeping his insides in. So he was pretty close. Like he was pretty hurt by the time everybody found him. So
Tall Trees is a very unforgiving place to do roleplay, by the way.
Oh my god, it is. Oh god, one day I start above the basin and I'm walking down and I immediately get attacked by a bear. And if it wasn't, I think it was Ash and I think Moon found me. And I was like, god damn. Within 5 minutes of starting stream and going down, and like immediately attacked by a bear. I'm like, god damn it. I couldn't make it to a rock in time. It was horrible.
Well, I
Would you
love
say
that.
that I suck in the woods and I was never downed once. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Never was with a bow or anything until this character. And
I was downed exactly one time, and it was by Cloud. He tried to throw a cleaver, not at me, and ended up throwing it directly at my head.
No.
You were right next to me and I hit you right in the neck because I think I aimed at a bear down the hill.
Oh, gosh.
And we were right next to each other, and because I wasn't friendly, I just
No.
it's the noise out of Sarah's mouth. It was just this like it was just and I'm like, we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. But I did get to cleaver a bear, which was fun.
Yes, I remember
And I
that.
just-
and you
and
did
I-
it, and you did it super cool too. You did
And
it
I
like
just
real
walked,
chill.
I just walked right by it afterwards. I was like, "Yep, that's my little Iron Man moment there. I'm happy. Let's go." Okay.
Because I think it was like I think Fang and Ash or Fang and Moon were like shooting at the bear, and we missed every arrow, and then just one cleaver.
Yeah.
If I can speak to Cloud for a second,
Mhm.
I think that Cloud being indecisive, because he was just crushed by the weight of everything by that stage. Like there were effectively, in his mind, I guess, 10 deaths on his hands by that stage.
Mhm.
The fact that he was indecisive in a way, especially like in the first sort of, if I divided the story into 3 acts, I'd say he was the most indecisive in Act 2, where everything was like really starting to boil over. Was actually a beautiful fuel for everything. Like it seeded doubt within the group.
Mhm.
When Cloud finally did make a
Absolutely.
decision, people were no longer as sure. It was clear that Cloud wanted what was best for the group, but then like the more militant faction within the group was sort of using that to their advantage.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was all Cloud's role was, you know, he could have been a lot more like firm and strict, but like the weight of all the previous decisions and the deaths as a result was like very, very clear by that stage.
And
Like,
if he had been more firm and strict, I think most of us would have followed him. But
Yeah.
because he was so unsure of himself and unsure of where we were headed, I think you were exactly right, Flicker, that it made it so that we were less sure, which was really important for the internal conflict and creating the depth that we were able to achieve in this.
It was really interesting because of that. I remember when we were trying to determine if we were going to allow Hummingbird to come in and take care of people and whatnot, and there was going to be, I think Cloud had decided, yes, we're gonna allow this, and then I think Dusk talked to Cloud, and then I remember Ash coming up, and then Fang came up, and then he had flipped in an instant, just be like, I'm writing a letter saying no one is welcome here. And I remember Fang going like, wait, what? And then Ash has this like malicious like smile on his face. He's so fucking happy about that. And then there was a point where Fang had said to Ash, like, you don't use your head. And the indecision of Cloud started pushing Ash to want to become the leader of the pack, because he's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not gonna flip flop like Cloud does. So he starts trying to use his head a little bit, and it didn't actually come to fruition because of some other stuff that happened. But like just props to like being willing to like take that role, Andy, because like I said, like Flicker was
Not
like, it
easy.
allowed
Not
so
easy.
yeah, not easy and allowed
Not easy at
so
all.
much RP to come from it.
Top 3 scary Ash moments.
Oh god.
Just for me, real quick. I'm just gonna rattle these off. One, the
Okay.
first time he ever drew a knife on
That
on
was
Fang.
terrifying for
That
Moon
was
too.
scary.
I think it was after Fang made did an impression of Ash.
That was
Yeah.
Ash
Yeah.
face. We
Yeah.
were
Yeah,
all
it was
sketching.
was.
It's like, grr, Ash sound angry, and he just immediately
Just threw a knife, yeah.
pivots on his heel and draws a knife.
It was terrifying.
And I was like, whoa, like even out of character, I was like arrested in that moment.
I sat up in my chair. I was like,
This second, it was it was definitely him calling out Fang's name after being tied to the tree.
Oh my god. That
Oh
was
my
that was a
God.
test in my RP because I don't yell a lot in my RP. I'm usually very even keeled, but I'm like, I see this scene happening right now. She's tying him up. He is not gonna be happy, and he thinks this is the ultimate betrayal. Like straight up the
Yeah.
ultimate betrayal. And that's where I had to muster everything I could just to try to, in his deep voice, is to yell her name as essentially like a big, like, you're done. Like you're
Yeah.
done.
That
And,
I have
was
to go back and find that because
horrifying.
I need to see that. I
I
did
was
have,
horrible.
horrible.
I
need to go
have
and
the
see
clip
that.
pulled up right now. I can.
Yeah,
post
it's
it.
and the
Yeah,
top
pop it up.
and the top one scariest moment was definitely when I was hiding while he was hunting Fang, and then I poked my head out and they said, "Is he on a horse? Oh no!"
I remember that because like I was sitting there like that was like when he was trying to hunt Moon and Fang.
Yeah.
And again, like
Oh,
the whole
gosh.
purpose behind that was to instill fear. He didn't want to hurt them until Fang started actually like shooting at him. And I was like, what is the most terrifying thing that I could think of happening? And it would be to see Ash on the back of a horse just barreling towards someone. And I remember watching that in your VOD, and you're like, oh, holy fuck. Like, he's on a horse.
I remember when you were chasing after we found Art up at the basin, and then you went to go hunt him, and we were racing after you. I
Racing
remember
after
that
you.
because
Oh,
all I could think
where
of
he
was
where
yeah.
he lied.
yeah, where Rangers coming after us and Law, and I'm like, oh man. I mean, granted, Cloud's first interaction with Law, they come right up and they're like, hey, stop right there, and I'm like, what?
No,
And
I don't think so.
Yeah, and and then I find Fang, and then Fang gets a horse, and luckily we get out of there after fighting another bad pack in the middle of the fog. But man, like,
Do you know what's interesting? I was thinking about it. Like everybody encountered Law except for Ash. Ash never once
Oh,
encountered
wow.
Law the entire time he was alive.
holy
Interesting.
shit.
All right,
Yeah,
I
just
have another question. We're not going to make it through all these questions, and that's okay. So, chat, if you're listening, while we're
It's
answering
always
this
next
question,
Wednesday.
I want you all, if you have, no, stop. You have to cut this off at some point. It will be more satisfying if it has an ending. I promise you.
I
Been
know,
doing
I-
this 7 years.
I know.
I love that it's been such a wonderful experience. I have to say this. It's been refreshing for me to see people, especially now hearing you photo that you're what you call a baby role player. Seeing people encounter these kinds of stories for the first time is so awesome for me, and I love being a part of it because like they're not frequent. You always end up
Right.
having these stories in roleplay where you're like, I want to do that again. I want that experience was so shiny, bright, awesome that I want to like. That's why I keep doing this. That's why I put myself through a lot of the horror or the dregs of roleplay sometimes because you're always striving for that story. So it's really cool that this was that for you. Like that's
It's
awesome.
amazing.
I'm so
Oh,
happy
it was
to
so
see that.
good. Yeah.
So chat, if you have questions, please feel free to type them into either Andy or hello. Oh, Endangered's here. Hi, Finn.
Finley.
hello.
hey,
Yay.
Finley.
If you have questions about the Wolfkin or the storyline or anything like that, type them into the chat while we go around and tell you the answer to this question, which I'm gonna go with for you. What was the most well, the whole question is, what was the most challenging aspect of the RP and what was the most satisfying? So let's go around and do those while chat is thinking of their questions. because we're gonna end in
I'll
about 15 minutes. Go ahead.
I'll jump in. So the most challenging for me was involving people in this story without uh having the story prematurely ended by doing so. That was the biggest challenge for me. Was like, I want to invite in the outsiders, but if I do it the wrong way, it ruins everything basically. Um, either like as in either the pack turns against Fang, or just like the narrative pacing of it was like very very challenging in a lot of ways. Fang spoke to a lot of outsiders, and there are some that were just like literally like, "Hey, I'll get you out of the forest," and I'm like, "Can't take that offer, dude. That would break." Like, I had to seed a certain level of distrust and paranoia into the most trusting member of the group, so that the story did not end. Because like Klaus was like, "I'll take you to this. I'll get you out of here. Like, just say when. Just give me the word." And I was like, "I don't know if I can take that offer because because that ends everything." So that sort of challenge there, and then like wanting to involve the law and rangers, but knowing past a certain point that, given that I play an LEO, I know there's a certain cutoff point where the law will shift its gears towards the Wolfkin, and then they will become a threat, and then they'll be dealt with as a threat. Like there's a certain point where, barring a few specific characters in the law team, when you get 6 deputies, you get the arm of the law, and you don't get. It's harder to interact with people at that stage. And I really, really did not want to pull the cord on that too early, because if we got to the point where 6 law surrounded us in the forest, and asked us to come in with our hands up, there's basically only 2 endings to that scene at that point, and everything that we've worked for ends right there and then. So, some of the challenging stuff was like knowing how to give the law enough that they could like find bits and pieces without actually just giving ourselves over. So that was the hardest thread for me personally the whole way through, and for Fang and for everybody in the group. The most rewarding part of it for me was, I mean, Hummingbird's involvement in the arc was like really really important in the end. And I'm glad that happened very organically, and it happened in a normalized fashion. But the most satisfying part for me was, I think, just that out of all the help that people often offered the wrong help. That's kind of like even narratively. So it meant the world to me that the decisions made in the end by the girls, the survivors, were made by themselves, and it was with external assistance, but they made those decisions themselves, and they left together. They left together by themselves, by their own volition. No Father Wolf told them to do it. No outsider told them to do it. They were given an option, they chose it for themselves, and they left together. And that's, to me, is satisfying, because they kind of broke that 10-year cycle they were trapped in by doing so. And because Cloud ended the Blood Moon, they were free, and they could do that, and they didn't have to worry anymore. So kind of the conclusion was the most satisfying part for me. All right, that's me.
I think the most satisfying thing is how every single one of us rolled with the punches and lack thereof of the story. Like every single one of us, like there were times where they were butting heads, but then they needed to come together and they worked together. And just like everybody's like, "Oh, my character is going to decide to do this," and everybody just like, without complaint, and just rolled with it, happily rolled with it, just like rolled with everything that happened in the story. I thought was amazing. Just like the level of respect and trust I think that the group had was something like really special. And kind of along the lines of it, that was one of the more challenging things for me, was rolling with the role play with specifically Ash's perma, because I was heavily planning on obviously having Ash at the Blood Moon to fight Dusk. Like we had built up to that, and I was looking forward to it so much. But with everything that built up, literally the night before, or the couple nights before, the whole scene with Hummingbird and everything, they're like, I just rolling organically with the RP and everything that happened. I'm like, I just don't see a way of him surviving. This is the way he has to go out organically through the RP and just kind of being able to roll with that. I was always so worried. I'm like, oh no, did I make the wrong decision? Am I gonna upset somebody because he died too soon, or like that I'm out of the story, a little bit quicker? Like that was like a really interesting and kind of tough thing for me, because I think I mentioned several of you guys and I was like, I think I fucked up. Like,
No.
every day I was like, oh my god, I either it was I should have done this, or I cannot believe I did that. Every single time.
If I can say real quick, Ash's death was very much the lesser of two evils in my mind, and it wasn't just my mind; it was Fang's mind as well. But just to speak on this as quickly as I can, I apologize. If Fang hadn't killed Ash, the Rangers were gonna make sure that he ended up in the hands of Law. And to me, that was the worst possible ending for that character from like an out of character perspective. And I didn't know how we could deal with it as a group, basically. So, and I was like, Fang has every motivation to kill Ash now. Fang has every motivation to. And I'd rather that be the story beat now than him ending up in jail because a ranger pistol whipped him. That was more interesting to me. So that's why I lent into that. So, and I remember messaging you being like, I don't know what to do. I remember DMing you.
I was just
and,
go, just fucking go for it. I was like, anything, everything,
just do
go
it.
for it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do what Fang would do.
Let's answer some of these questions before we move on to everybody else's answers to that one. So, the first one was from Donnerberg, who said, I thought there was a hint of romantic feelings between Dusk and Cloud, specifically when she asked Cloud to let her go. And he says, every decision feels wrong, which is, thank you for the reminder of that scene. Was there anything to that? Andy, do you want to answer this first, or do you want me to answer it first?
I mean, there were always nuzzles, but if you think about whatever relationship, any ideas we had of a relationship would have been based in a 10-year-old mind that then evolved, over 10 years or whatever, because so if there was any feeling, I don't know how much there would have been. I mean, he had affection for everyone. But he always felt, I part of me thinks it would go back to the first night, the slaughter, when they stood up. Yeah. And so it was ultimate admiration, maybe.
I wouldn't call it romance either. There was certainly a chemistry, but I think that came more from we never really decided who was the oldest and who was the youngest, except for we kind of all together decided Moon was the youngest for no reason in particular. It just happened. But Dusk and
because
Cloud
they're sippy cup.
Shut up. Look here, Andy.
Oh my god.
When the first wolf attack happened, when the caravan was taken and the kids are the ones who are left alive, Dusk is kind of the first one to come out of the wagons, and she looks across and sees Cloud. And it was like, I don't know, I guess that's probably where that developed out of, was that they were the first two to the ideas that they howled, because they didn't Dusk didn't really know what else to do. Or Brianna, I guess when she was young, 10, didn't know what else to do. So she just howled. And then Cloud joined in, or Simon at the time, and then the rest of the kids did, and then Father Wolf accepts them. So not necessarily that they did that on purpose. They didn't convince Father Wolf to accept them, but that's how they
instinct.
became. Yeah. But I do think that there was probably a connection of a sort between Dusk and Cloud that went beyond just a normal level, but I wouldn't necessarily call it romance, because I don't think that they would really understand even how that would work. They wouldn't have any concept of that. So, but that was a very good. I'm surprised, Donner, because well done. I can't. You picked up on that.
We got some detectives in here.
I know. I think that was about the time where I was like, I think there's a little bit more here. So well spotted. Good job.
Which would make the deceit so much more real.
Oh yeah.
Dusk wasted no time. It's just grabbed his hair and was like, yep. Goodbye.
You're dead. You're dead to me. You're dead to him. You're dead to everybody. Well, she even said to Moon when she threw the knife down in front of Moon and said, "Kill me if you want to." She said, Moon said he didn't deserve to go like that, and Dusk said, "Oh, he didn't deserve to die looking into the eyes of his oldest friend." That was what she said to her.
Yeah, that was good. That was very strong.
Holy
Yeah.
hell.
It was good.
That I
I
mean,
think
see,
Moon said no,
Oh.
by the way.
that was that moment. It was like how, because if Cloud was trying to be peacemaker, it's like, okay, no one has to fight anymore if Father Wolf is dead. If Dusk still feels like she needs to fight, she can easily kill Cloud, who is already really injured and is ready to put down his life for the better, so everybody else could get away. And it was like he kind of killed like 3 birds with one stone. Well, he was aiming to.
3
But
wolves with
He
one
kind of
knife.
Yeah.
became the Messiah figure for us, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't try to make
Damn.
him look like Christ. I tried to make him look like just
No, but-
emaciated.
He didn't look, he didn't look.
But he
I
did
didn't
look
think
like
about
him,
that. He kinda
actually.
does look like Jesus a little bit.
I made his
I
eyes
didn't
stick
think
out.
about
Yeah.
A crown of fangs.
that. Oh my god.
Do we want to answer? Actually, I'm going to answer the satisfying versus challenging question.
Yeah.
So challenging for me too was having something built up in my mind of like a scene that I'm like pumped for, and then having to let that go. So the most challenging aspect was when the Blood Moon's about to happen. Fang and Dusk were about to have an arena battle. Man, arena battles are so rare in RP. They're so rare. I've done one that I can think of right now before, and it was fucking epic, and I was so stoked. And then we never had it, and it was like the worst RP blue balls of my life. I was so excited for that scene. So that was challenging, but because of the tight knit just chemistry between this whole group that we had been experiencing and developing over the course of this extremely short time, it was we were able to get past that, like, and that was really cool. It was really cool to just be able to trust these people so much with the story, like Lacuna was saying, that like everybody just rolled with it, which was it was on another level. Like, just being perfectly honest, it was on another level.
It was one of those things where it felt like a difficult to get ending for a narrative video game. Like, it felt like, it's like, man, there's a lot of things that have to
yes, that had to fall into
happen
place
for these 3 characters to survive.
Right. And that to me was the most satisfying part too, was that it got a redemptive ending in the end. I would have been happy with a tragic ending where we all died, but redemptive endings are my favorite. Redemption stories are glorious and also extremely rare in RP. So to achieve that was really special.
Very cool.
Well, you guys got the redemptive ending.
I know. Well, you contributed to that though. Like,
Yeah,
without Ash's whole deal, we would not have been able to get there. So
Oh,
There
no,
would have
very
been
true.
there would have been no true conflict either.
I'll just say, yeah, like I'm so happy that you guys got that redemptive ending, and I think this is kind of answering a question that was asked. I can't remember that Finley's asking. Like, Ash had the most hate-filled death ever, in my opinion. He died hateful and spiteful, and it was perfect.
Just the way he
While
lived.
while Fang
Yeah.
cried into his chest, and
oh my god.
yeah, Fang was he died while Fang cried into his chest, like asking if she was a good wolf, and he said
Yeah,
no,
and he said-
bad
he
wolf,
said
and then
bad-
died.
And then died. That was, yeah, because
What?
we have to, like, yeah. So real quick, like, my mic didn't pick it up, but I tried, because I was trying to be quiet, and I think the noise gate caught it. But yeah, Fang asks, "Is Fang good wolf?" And Ash, with his dying breath, says, "Bad wolf," and dies.
Oh.
Wow. Incredible.
And,
Oof.
that's why Fang had the bloody mask from that stage on. I changed it over to the bloody bone mask.
Hmm.
I can rapid fire answer 3 questions right now, real quick. Did you
Go
find any of
ahead.
yourself using less words in real life after seeing how effectively Pack are able to convey things so much quiet in so few words? No, I'm a chatterbox. I'm a wordaholic. That'll never change. Speaking as Fang was actually it was quite easy once you get into the rhythm of it, but starting was very hard.
Oh,
I
yeah.
started with an accent for Fang, and I dropped that really quick, because that was really, really hard.
I also did like that we didn't have to talk that much, and
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Fang and Ash and a couple others started picking up on the different whistles, because some of us didn't have horses, and so we could whistle without calling the horse, and that's how Ash would communicate with people, is actually
Yeah.
by whistling, which is really cool.
God.
There's also will there be another one-shot storyline? I enjoyed the Wolfkin, and I'll just see another pop-up short story like this.
Bearkin.
Maybe not with this again. I love every single role player in this group. I'd happily do another one-shot, but
Yep.
Oh,
do
yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Doing one shots with the exact same set of players every time, probably not.
Right.
Scheduling and like thematics, and like not everyone's going to be into the same idea, and I don't want to do this sort of thing back to back to back. But like absolutely down the line, I'd be super into it personally.
Yep.
But
Oh,
I've
yeah.
got to wrap up. I've got to wrap up some shit on the 2 characters I'm actively playing at the moment. And then from Finley. Clearly the happy ending was planned. What was everyone's original ideal ending, narratively or otherwise?
Straight up tragedy.
I expected Fang to die second to last, trying to send Moon to safety, and I genuinely thought that either Moon would be the sole survivor, or Moon would die trying to protect Fang's body, or something to that effect. That's what I pictured in my head.
Yep.
I don't know if it was ideal ending,
Agreed.
but that was the only outcome I could see for
Yeah,
like a
that
long
was
while.
that was like what everyone saw in their scope. I remember like whenever we talked about it and just sitting in a voice call and watching like the dev streams, we were like, well, fuck, what are we gonna do? Like, how is everyone gonna die? Because we weren't preparing for a redemptive ending. We were preparing for everyone to get fucking gunned down, because we didn't know where to go.
Right. I actually 100%. I mean, if you watched any of the story at all, or watched the VODs at all, Moon is always standing in front of whoever is arguing, standing
Yeah.
between them. So she was always like,
Angel.
Even when Ash pulled the knife on Fang, she got in between them and was like, this is not gonna happen. So I honestly feel if it had gotten to the point where Law was there and pointing guns at Fang or whatever they were doing, I honestly truly believe that Moon would have died taking a bullet for Fang. Like that's what I thought was gonna happen, to be honest.
Good.
I'm really, really glad they got their ending. Moon would have died for her, so
That's another thing, is when Cloud was going off, he was, handing off his like valuables, all his, his possessions, and was saying shit like he wasn't gonna come back. I was like, oh, something's about to fucking happen. And
Oh, you picked up on that.
yeah, I was sitting. Yeah, I was sitting there like he's talking like I'm not gonna see him again. So when he had handed Cloud like that fistful of lavender, the same thing that he had put where Ash had died, it was like it's supposed to be like this portal into like the next life. He had given it to Cloud preemptively, and was like,
What?
yeah, he was like, please fucking come back.
I didn't know this.
Because
holy shit!
because Moon got the binoculars, I think, right?
I
Mhm.
do, and I
Yeah,
she still has
those are his father's.
Bug vision.
Yeah, his father's
The
bug vision. Yeah.
But yeah, you had like Cloud had said like look after Moon, and I was like, what the fuck? Don't die! Like before I can say, I was like, so I'm sitting there the whole time waiting for this fight to start. I'm like, he's not coming back. I think it's just gonna happen. And when everyone had gotten up there, and Dusk was getting ready to pretty much just murder the shit out of Cloud, and Moon
Don't
had stood
say that.
and then stood in between. Moon had stood in between Dusk and Cloud, and Dusk grabbed a hold of Moon with the knife out. If anyone has any kind of footage of it, I'd draw the gun. I'm like, I almost shot Dusk in the fucking forehead.
Oh god.
And I'm thinking, like, if I had done that, it would have been a massively different end.
Every character there had one life to malicious it downing. I'm pretty sure. Like every character there was gonna perma to the first time someone tried to take him out. So
And
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was like, I could, but I'm gonna wait to see what happens. I was waiting to see an actual swing, and I am so glad I didn't shoot.
a
But
quick question.
I wish you that day. I wish you would have, because I was so ready to die.
I'm
Because
so sorry.
I don't know if I can call it my ideal ending, but that was certainly the Blood Moon was certainly the point where I felt the story was gonna diverge into
Yeah.
whatever the ending was gonna be, and there were several different pathways that it might take, because originally Dusk was supposed to fight Ash, and we didn't have I would certainly have pulled punches and died to Fang probably, because I felt that it would have carried the story forward at that point. But Ash and Dusk were probably gonna just duke it out. And
Yeah.
whoever won that day was going to change the trajectory of whatever happened, because Ash would have, I think, then challenged Cloud for Alpha
Yep.
if he had killed Dusk. And Dusk would have kind of submitted to Cloud's. He had started to kind of give hints that he was wanting to also become outsider, and Dusk would have killed Ash and then followed along with that plan afterward. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if
That's the
Dusk,
bad ending. If Ash,
yeah,
if Ash won Blood
Ash
Moon.
won the Blood Moon, he would have essentially, like, in a way, like, submitted Dusk to his will. Then he would have gone after Cloud and tried to fight him, and then if he would have won, then he would have gone after Fang as well. So he would have like tried to kill both Cloud and Fang, and if Moon got in the way, he probably would have been so blood crazy, probably would have gone for her too, because he
That's
was
the darkest
so
timeline.
crazy. Yeah, exactly. That's the dark timeline. If Ash survived, essentially.
Glad Ash dead.
I think, can you name a scene that left you speechless in the end? I think the knife being drawn on Fang by Ash was the one that left me speechless. I think Fang actually ran away from the group for a while after that, because I just didn't know what to say anymore. And a big shout out to Lucy Goosey, who's in my chat right now, who plays Eli, who we randomly ran into outside of Blackwater, and he was like, it was like he was an NPC that had been scripted to help us.
Wait, is that the guy?
Yes, that's the guy.
Is that the guy? Oh my god.
He was
perfect.
hey, I'm just a completely kind stranger with no affiliations to anybody. The barber's there, gunsmith's over there if you need it.
It was crazy.
Oh my
He was
God.
There's a
pointing out
butcher-
everything.
There's a butcher around the corner, but be careful, it's right next to the law office, and I get the feeling you girls don't want to go there.
My God.
Anyway, bye forever.
Bye forever.
He was like, "Do you need me to go do something? Do you need me to go create a diversion?" I was like, "Wait, what?
Oh,
Who
no, we're
is
good.
this guy?"
Can I just say the scene that left me speechless was actually not with another Wolfkin, it was with Hummingbird.
That was a good scene.
Was,
That was really
this was
good.
the first time that Ash was on essentially the losing side. He had gotten gored by an elk. He had gotten mauled by a bear, and Hummingbird was helping him get up. And she started sewing up. Like, he had muscle damage to his chest where the bear had mauled him. His throat was torn out. This was the same like time he perma'd. She started sewing him up with silver. Which, if you're familiar with like the WildRP, usually they use like catgut or something like that for muscle damage, or so it will dissolve and get absorbed by the body. Silver does not. So she was sewing him up, like internal sewing him up with silver that would not go away. And so anytime he would move or do anything, it would just tear his body apart. So she, like, if he had not died that day, what Hummingbird did to Ash would have eventually probably killed him. And that, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, right? This is amazing.
So subtle.
It's so subtle and it's
Whoa.
dark. And she was telling him this as she was, as they were sewing him up.
Oh my
It was
God.
amazing.
So great.
That's insanity. I love that.
I have one solidifying moment where, like, I knew we were on the right track. Like, things were like we were meant to do this. It was at the start. It was probably the third or fourth time we had all locked in together. And I was walking from the top of the big mountain above the basin, and I was coming down the path, and 3 people on horseback ride up to me. And they just go, and meanwhile, my mic is muted because I'm just still like clearing my throat. I'm getting ready or whatever. And I'm just walking to go find you guys. And one guy's like, oh, how you doing today? And then I just stand there and just stare at them. And the guy goes, you know what? I don't care. And they all run away. And I was like, okay, we are on the right track. We are on the right track. So I knew that. Yeah, that was
God.
toughest for me was writing all the goddamn journals, all the journal entries, like and
Oh, but
structuring
let me
that
tell you
out,
something.
mapping that out. It's good. I
Let me
mean,
tell
it's
you-
great.
Yeah, it
but
was fantastic.
it was a lot just to remember all the names, make all. But the thing is, like, the idea of bookending, where one of the first things where we all shed our names, our actual, we'll say Christian names or whatever, that our characters had, and become these names of the forest, and then seeing that letter at the end where it says Fang is not Fang, Fang is Saskia. I was like, oh, that felt so. It just it warmed my goddamn heart. It was.
I was
going to
mention this before. I was like,
yeah.
you set up like a writing device that we use. And I'm a writer, so the second I saw that, I was like, well, if we survive and shed the wolf, the wolf masks, that's the inversion. That's like the ending of the story. That's like the.
That was so beautiful.
That's the duet to what you set up before that allows them all to go free.
Yeah.
So yeah, loved that.
Two things. I want to say the hardest thing for me was coming down from the snow on foot every time. Because I had to go through that, all the wolves and bears between there and tall trees, and I don't know if I said this, but every time I would put in the Discord, like, when I came on, I didn't do it until I saw grass. Because there were days where I'd come down from the snow, get sideswiped by 4 or 5 wolves, get downed, and just respawn and just go buy my shit again.
Old wolf has difficult time traveling to trees.
Old wolf have arthritis.
Old wolf is getting jumped in a whiteout for the 3rd time. But that's like the reason I decided to put him up there, is because no one's gonna find him in the fucking whiteout.
All right. Lacuna, do you have one more question?
Yeah, I have a question for you guys, but I don't think we'll have time to answer it, so I can kind of leave it as a cliffhanger, as kind of like a hypothetical or a just a question to think about. So we all know Father Wolf was a real wolf, and wolves are incapable of talking to people. So my question is, for the Wolfkin, were everything that Father Wolf said, was it actually the direction of Father Wolf, or was it all in the minds and psychology of these kids? Just deciding if that's how they kind of I can't think of the word, but how they processed what had happened. Everything that they decided, they said it was Father Wolf, but it was actually them, not actually the wolf telling them to do it.
I always saw it as them presenting it to him. I never saw it as like him like going like, "Hey, go over here." I always saw it as them like seeking guidance from him and then like interpreting his actions.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because I always saw it as kind of the Lord of the Flies thing, where the Father Wolf never told them what to do or gave them, like, presented it a choice and they kind of interpreted it. I always interpreted it as it was kind of the fucked up minds of the kids making the decision themselves. That
was definitely a narrative choice we could have made. I think it would have been a much darker story if there was no Father Wolf at all ever.
Oh, yeah.
And was just like a collective image or hallucination or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, shared psychosis.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. In the end, Ash was doing this anyway. So
yeah.
Ash was making up his own shit. So.
That's why I made the decision to do something like that, is because that's how I kind of interpreted, and how Ash kind of interpreted Father Wolf stuff.
Yeah, I guess it could have been like a wolf skull on a pike somewhere. Like, if we really wanted to go that route.
Well,
but
we had a body in the end. We had the Father.
Yeah,
Wolf
that is true.
That's true.
That is true. And the other option, which was the one that was theorized by a lot of characters outside of the Wolfkin, was that Father Wolf was actually a man.
Yeah.
And this was like a cult that they'd all been inducted into. And we
Yeah.
could have done that. And in fact, really, we had the license to pivot into that being the case at any point. Like, if we really felt that way, we could have possibly recruited someone to play him. But that was just never the input. That was never like the premise that we started with. So it would have been a huge tone shift, and it would have been too similar. It would have been another Cannibal and Tall Trees story, and that's why everyone defaulted to that, because I think it was Klaus's theory. Klaus's theory was that Father Wolf was actually eating the dead children. It was actually a man eating the children,
Oh my
like
word.
the ones that died in the Blood Moon. and that's
Jam
why
is
the
so
Bloodmoon
dark.
existed. Jam is so dark, but it's because we were in tall trees. That's the only reason
Oh,
people
yeah,
thought of that was
that's
because it was in
true.
tall trees.
So true. Well,
Yeah.
Klaus has seen some shit, so we have to give him a little grace.
I would have. It would have been, and we've talked about this privately, but if all of us were just sitting up on a hill and got one of the admin to spawn in as a wolf and just to see people riding in and out and just see us all just sitting there with a wolf right in the middle. And it's not attacking us. It's just sitting there, like looking at us, and we're talking to it. And oh my god, the chills it would have sent down people's spines. What would have been epic for an ending if we did go the dark route, where we would have to, get gunned down by law, is to get a couple of other admins to all make, wolves, and we charge out of tall trees at them, like humans and wolves chasing, running towards law, and we just get gunned down. That would have
Did we
been.
ever? Yeah, I mean, do we ever ask the bot to do that for us, and do we ever get an answer?
I never sent it in. Everything started happening so fast.
To resolve
Okay,
it without,
alright.
we found a way to
Yeah.
resolve it without relying on
Yeah.
potentially very janky server tech.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
to
the thing is,
accomplish it,
I believe,
which I was fine with.
Yeah, I think currently they can be animals, but they can't fight. Like, they can't attack.
They can't
anything.
attack.
Yeah.
God.
So,
Yeah, that
Well,
would've been
guys.
wild.
Sorry, what?
I said that would have been wild.
It would have been.
Um,
And on
hey,
that
quick,
note,
and quick, I just want to pass this. I want to throw this to Andy real quick. From Donnenberg. My hats off to Andy for finding a creative way to do the Father Wolf scene, and I agree.
oh,
That's
thank
it.
you.
Amen.
Yeah, it was great. That was honestly that clip that you made, Andy, gave me chills. Like I think I watched it, and I am not exaggerating, about 20 times. I loved it. It was amazing. It was so good.
I sweat all my Pepsi in about 4 seconds.
Thank you. No, that was fun. I as it all kept ramping up, I just said, "Oh, what can I?" And I spent all day editing it for that night when we all met up.
He
Like,
did.
I was just like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, I got to do this.
Messaging me.
I got to do this." Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember seeing little clips, and he was like, "Do you want to see it?" I was like, "I mean, hell yes, I do. Please share right now."
But yeah, no, I figured, and this for me, like having 3 other characters and Cloud being my 4th, and not being in a situation to perma any of them, I looked at Cloud and was like, this could be the sacrifice that the remaining people need. He didn't feel that threatened anymore because Ash was dead, but he still felt like somebody was responsible, and Father Wolf was the one for years, for a decade, of torturing us. Like, because I did let those little moments slip of like, is this just some, like, I think I asked a couple people, like, is this just some game that Father's been playing on us for all these years? I don't see the stronger pack. We're just losing more and more, and he wants to keep making his kingdom bigger. So, I'm not a mathematician, but you need everybody,
Yeah,
So.
Moon caught that once, and she was like, and that's when she started thinking that. So yeah, I remember. All this
Well, guys, I know we can all sit here and talk about this all night, but
hours.
there's more RP to be had on the server.
This is true.
Chat,
Yeah,
I
go
want
to
to thank
bed.
I want to thank all of you for being here and for enjoying this little kind of wrap up with us and sending off our little wolf children into the snow with some lovely discussion and enjoyment of the story that we told. And I do think there will be more short stories in the future, and hopefully they'll all turn out as immersive and cool as this one did.
Oh yeah.
There's some real talent on the server, so I'm expecting as much. So thank you all for being here. You have yourselves a wonderful evening, and for those of you who are players, we'll catch you all in game. So
I'll
everybody
catch
say
you later.
goodbye.
Love you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Chad.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Man.
All right. Should we watch the ending once more? Cloud's ending? Should we wrap it up that way, guys? What do you think? I think we should. Let's do it. So for those that don't know, Fang and Dusk were about to fight. And so pretty much Cloud sneaks away and says, I'm going to go get Father Wolf because he needs to witness this. He needs to witness this because he's been there for all the others. When in fact, he went to go fight Father Wolf and the remaining wolves. So, hi guys, we're gonna watch the video once more, really quick. And so he goes up to the edge of this kind of mountain. He sets down a fire. He takes off his hat at the wolf head. He takes off his pelt jacket. He takes out his knife and he screams for Father. And this is what ends up happening. And that's that. Yeah. 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 So. Holy damn. I know. And watching it again, like I've disassociated myself from it now. So like watching it again, I was like, oh wow. Like it felt fun. It felt really fun. And I think it paints the picture. Like, I mean, granted, that's all stock footage that I had access to. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Who do we love? Who should we go give a little bit of love to, guys? What's today? Is today Wednesday? So tomorrow we're going to be doing some spoopy games with my friend Lisa. I'm going to be screaming like my life depended on it. But I do want to thank you guys for being here. You guys are so fantastic. Thank you for being here for the Wolfkin story. If you weren't, there are VODs. I'm pretty sure I've highlighted all of Cloud's VODs. And I am thinking of editing something together, maybe like, you know, an hour long like video that kind of chronicles his whole story, laced with all the different I'm still upset I didn't get to read all of the journal. Aww. If you want OOC, I can send them to you. Just so you know, just so Callie knows. So, but if it's all said and done, like if they know, if the law knows that the Wolfkin are gone, maybe that could be something. Maybe that could be something like an olive branch that the law gives and says, hey, I know how bad you wanted to read that. Here it is. So maybe that could come up. Who knows? So I think we are going to go over. Oh, where did they go? Where are they? There they are. We're going to go over to a PB and J Lee, who is playing Elsie right now, who's absolutely lovely. We'll be back tomorrow doing some spoopy games, and then probably back on Buzz on Friday. Maybe we'll even do a double stream tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe we'll do late night Buzz. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But yeah, no, Callie, DM me and I could send them to you. And if not, we could always see if Law is going to do something and get people in. So if Law would be open to letting you actually finish it to give you a little bit of closure. If it's brought up in character, like if other people are able to catch, you know, pick up that you're still not over it, maybe somebody could speak up on your behalf. I don't know. That'd be kind of, or on Amelie's behalf. So, but we are going to get out of here. What is it? We're going to do? We're going to go over there and give PB&J lots of love. If you guys have not followed her yet, please go give her a follow. Raid 1 is there, and Raid 2 is for followers. And guys, we do love keeping things going in the Discord. We give away a game, a Steam game, every week in the Discord. So get in there. We'd love to have you. And with that, we're going to roll some credits and get the heck out of here. I love you all. Bye-bye.